How do you think that the injury is going to impact the Mets rotation?
It just depends if it's long-term or not, Sal. I mean, I think that's the key. I mean, the Mets have enough to cover their rotation, especially with Manaea coming back. But if it's long-term, that could be a real problem. We saw it last year with the calf injury. By the time he got back, tried for the postseason, he just wasn't the same guy. So that's a difficult thing. And, I mean, even if it's a few weeks, again, it's going to take him time to get back, and he may not be the same guy. So hamstrings can linger. We've seen that before. So it could be a problem.
Yeah, so I think that, the Mets are really happy right now that they have the best rotation in baseball. Also, they have the good problem of maybe at times having too much depth. And so this is where that really comes into play. And so you have the guys to back him up. Obviously, you don't want to lose a guy like Senga because he is the ace of this rotation. But you do have guys who are, doing more than may have been expected from them, the Griffin Cannings of the world, for example. Then you also have a couple guys who may be coming back from the IL soon. And so, hopefully they'll be able to keep, passing the baton and using the next guy and really, again, taking advantage of that best rotation in baseball.
This is a very harmonious show so far. I agree with what both of you said. And I will weave it together, and then we can move on to the next topic. Does that sound like good TV?
Maybe. I might have to tag that with my own thoughts.
Yes, good. That's a TV term, tag. I agree, John, that with Senga in particular, the length of the absence is what you are concerned about. With any pitcher, of course, there's the absence, and then there's the build-up, and that takes time anyway. And Senga is a guy who has to be 100%. Right. He knows his body. He last year was physically cleared and still wasn't back because he wasn't feeling right mechanically, if I remember correctly. So anytime he's out, you think, okay, he's going to have to make sure he's 100% to be back and better. And I agree that they can withstand it, but that ace position is the one that they don't have depth in that particular role. They have a lot of really, really good starting pitchers in that rotation, but not only is an ace difficult to replace for any team, but the Mets aren't necessarily going to be that team at the trade deadline that goes all in for whatever limited resources of number one starting pitching there is, because the rotation is not a weakness. And there'll be other contending teams. It's too early to say what ace-type guys will be available, if any. But there's too many teams that'll be too desperate. It's really hard to see the Mets ever being in a position to outbid everyone on the ace that's out there.
Well, plus you're already looking ahead a little bit to the postseason with this team.
Right.
That's the guy that you need, the top
Okay, but it's early June. They're getting Montas back, you would think, barring a setback at some point. They should be getting their best pitcher, in my opinion, back in Sean Manaea at some point. They can overcome this. Now, again, we'll find out the severity as we go on here. As long as he's ready to go, let's say mid-September into October.
Well, we saw what the layoff did last year. That was the problem.
But he was out basically the whole year last year.
Yeah.
Well,
this year's
only from the cap was only the last 3 months. Remember?
Right. No, but I'm saying he didn't pitch in the beginning of the season. He comes back for that one 6-inning night where he was good. So I wouldn't be worried about his performance when he does come back, assuming that they could get him back a little bit before October. I don't think this is that big of a deal. All right, now, obviously, you want him healthy, but they could overcome it. Liz, it was almost a total disaster today, but Edwin Diaz once again able to get the job done. What'd you see from Edwin today?
So I think, we've talked about how, is this 2022 Edwin? And, I think this is another example where we need him to get back to that 2022 Edwin, and it's another challenge for him. I mean, he comes into the game inheriting runners, which is not something that he's done much this year, only twice already this season, and you see him need to take some time to settle in. I even noticed maybe a slight mechanical difference when we get to that first strike with Call. That's where I really saw that his arm was flowing freely, and then he physically looked like he was really in it. And again, really trusting all of those pitches. So, it's a new situation for him that he has not dealt with much this year. And so if we want him to, again, be that 2022 masterpiece Edwin Diaz, we need him to be able to come into situations like this and dominate like he did today once he settled in.
Yeah, and there's certain games you just go ahead.
Like maybe he just mentally wasn't quite there. Like he had checked out. He wasn't. I'm not pitching today. And Stan's going to finish, and then...
I mean, when they haven't scored a run in, what,
20-something,
over 20 innings, I mean, you don't think that you're going to come in with a 4-0 lead and have to close it out for them.
Still, he's got to be ready to do the job, and that would have been a disaster loss. Like, the loss in itself, not a big deal. The Mets can't win every game. They could not lose that game today with the Senga injury, up 4-0, and Diaz thankfully got the job done. Andy, Soto, he is back. What signs are you seeing that Soto's back to feeling like a comfortable self?
He does look like Juan Soto in a lot of ways. One, and I can't claim this is original thought. A player pointed this out to me, and then I looked a little deeper into it. Soto, this is Tuesday. Mackenzie Gore had Soto struck out on a slider earlier in the at-bat. Here's a fastball, 97. See Soto nodding? Then he gets a slider next, and Gore threw a hard slider that hung a little bit, and Soto drove it out. Now, what I think happened there and I wish Juan were here to confirm it. I think Soto baited him into throwing that slider, and that's just Juan at his best, because it was like, all right, I'm nodding at you. You threw that 97. I fouled it back. Like, you can't beat me with that fastball. Well, yeah, you can. Juan was late on the fastball, but he's looking at him like, try that again. And Gore is like, oh, I better throw the slider. He's shaking his head at the fastball, and then we saw what happened. So that's what I saw every night I was at Yankee Stadium last year and on the road with the Yankees in the playoffs watching Soto. It's like that body language. I've talked to pitchers about this. When Soto gets into that thing, they're like, oh, God, he's doing that. This is going to be hard. And I think he won that little psychological battle there.
And he stared him down after.
Stared him down after, because he's like, I told you couldn't get me with the fastball. And you had to, he's like, the whole thing was beautifully Juan Soto.
Oh, I love it. And we have not seen that nearly enough with the Mets. Obviously, we're seeing that lately. All right, Harp. Brandon Nimmo, he's been coming around as well. 3 homers last 24 hours, or in the less than 24 hours, as a matter of fact. What are you seeing from Nimmo lately?
Well, I feel like the move to the top of the lineup made a big difference for him. You know, I mean, I think that's who he is at his heart. He's an on-base guy. He got more into more of a power guy the last few years, but his numbers started to come down in terms of his on-base, his average, and all that. I don't know. I just feel like sometimes it's a mentality when you're hitting the middle of the order. And I think for him to get back to the top of the order and just feel comfortable in what he's doing best, obviously he's still hitting home runs, but I feel like that it put him in a place where he could just do his thing and maybe be more of a on-base guy again. And he's starting to look like the Nimmo that, when he's at his best, is a real good hitter.